Good morning, ASEAN. Freshen up your world, your thought, and your idea with us every weekday from 7:30 to 8 a.m. I'm Srichand Cosmetics.
And I'm also here with you, Nirasha Malisaklami, and today is Tuesday, 14th of May, 2013. We're starting with our special report on the midterm of the Filipino polls.
Despite scattered killings and fears of fraud, the polls were expected to be relatively peaceful after authorities took steps to prevent chaos in one of Asia's most ferocious democracies. Elections in the Philippines are about name recall. Parties exist in name only and to bankroll campaigns. Political reforms are, in addition, less important than a catchy slogan or good TV ad. Still, the outcome will determine the level of support for President Benigno Aquino III's reform agenda in his remaining 3 years in office. Aquino has been praised at home and abroad for cracking down on widespread corruption, backing key legislation, and concluding an initial peace agreement with Muslim rebels. But he cannot run for re-election, and a choice of his successor will depend on the new political landscape. Among 33 senatorial candidates are two of Aquino's relatives, a neophyte daughter of the vice president, a son of the sitting chamber president, a son of the late president, an ousted president's son, a spouse, and children of former senators, and there's possibility that two siblings will be sitting in the same house. Currently, 15 senators have relatives serving in elective positions. The race for the House is even more for a family affair. Toppled dictator Ferdinand Marcos's widow, the flamboyant 83-year-old Imelda, is expected to keep her seat as a representative for Ilocos Norte province, the husband's birthplace where the locals kept electing the Marcoses despite allegations of corruption and abuse during the long rule. Marcos's daughter, Amy, is seeking re-election as governor, and the son, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., is already a senator. Boxing star Manny Pacquiao also seeks re-election in the House and building a dynasty of his own. His brother, Rogelio, is running to represent his southern district, and wife Jinky as vice governor of Sarangani province. On the local level, Joseph Estrada, who was ousted in a 2001 People Power revolution on corruption allegations, is running for mayor of Manila, hoping to capitalize his move's star popularity, particularly among the poor masses. Philippine elections have long been dominated by politicians belonging to the same bloodlines. At least 250 political families have monopolized power across the country, although such dynasties are prohibited under the 1987 Constitution. The Congress has failed to pass the law needed to define and enforce the provision. Ana Maria Tabunda from the independent pollster Pulse Asia said the dynasties restrict democracy, but added that past surveys by her organization have shown that most Filipinos are less concerned about the issue than with the benefits and patronage they can receive from particular candidates. Voters also often pick candidates with the most familiar surnames instead of those with the best records.
This midterm polls will still be seen as a referendum for the presidency of Benigno Aquino. And of course, Imelda Marcos will still retain as a dominant figure in the politics of the Philippines. So moving on to Indonesia, as Indonesian President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono will announce and install a technocrat as the country's new finance minister. A senior minister said yesterday that the new minister will replace Agus Martowardojo, who left his position for central bank governor. To fill the vacant position, President Yudhoyono has appointed coordinating minister for economy Hatta Rajasa as acting finance minister. Hatta was a temporary finance minister after former finance minister Simuyani Indrawati became the managing director of the World Bank in 2010. According to Hatta, the new finance minister is a professional from non-political party. The installment will be conducted this week, which is estimated to be between Tuesday or Wednesday. Well, until tomorrow, we'll know. And technocrats have typically been appointed to run the country's finance ministry. The appointment of a professional as the new finance minister may abolish concern that the financial sector is handled by those non-professional.
And still stay in Indonesia, as according to an official, small companies are set to float their stocks on the Indonesia Stocks Exchange or IDX, hopefully before the end of the first half of the year. According to the IDX listing director, Ho Sen, all of the companies that have given a presentation before the BOURSE will use their financial statement issues in December, except Korea Deltamas, which will use its March financial statement. Each company has a 6-month period to continue its initial public offering IPO process. The 6-month period starts from the issuance of the company's financial report. If within 6 months the IPO process has not been completed, the company needs to use a new financial report. There are a number of firms that have shown an interest in entering the BOURSE to raise funds to finance expansion. The latest company to make the move was industrial estate developer Korea Deltamas. The company is planning to afford around 20 to 25% of its enlarged capital, according to a source. As much as the $200 million to $300 million is expected to be raised from the offering. And so far, 8 companies that recently listed their shares on the BOURSE have collected 2.53 trillion rupiah, or about $253 million in total funds raised from their IPOs last year. Funds raised from IPO reached 10 trillion rupiah, and this year the number is expected to grow as much as firms planning to go public have hinted at their expectation for big gains of the offering.
A senior government official of Cambodia said there wasn't any political negotiations being made between the ruling Cambodian People's Party and the National Rescue Party to pave the way for the return of the opposition party leader, Sam Rainsy. He commented after Sam Rainsy told the media that his party was negotiating with the CPP through a political framework to ensure his safe return to the country to participate in the upcoming election in July. According to Tith Sothia, a member of the press and quick reaction unit of the Council of Ministers, told Cambodia Express News currently that Cambodians do not have any idea about any coordination efforts between the Cambodian People's Party or any government body with the opposition party. CPP leaders as well as government officials are not trying to find any solutions with Sam Rainsy involving his comeback because he has to solve his criminal case through the judicial system first. He added that Cambodian authority is not intending to settle with a person who has not changed his attitude. Sothia said Sam Rainsy's claims were only made to stir up the political environment. He himself knew that he wouldn't be able to be a candidate in the election. Sam Rainsy, believed to be living in France, was sentenced in 2009 to 12 years imprisonment for uprooting border posts in Severang province, forgery, and disinformation. Over the weekend, the newly formed National Rescue Party had submitted its candidate list to compete in July's election, but the list did not contain Sam Rainsy's name.
And for Myanmar development, Malaysia retail chain Parkson has opened its department store in Yangon last week, which is a joint venture between Parkson Retail Asia, Yoma Strategic Holdings, and First Myanmar Investment. Parkson holds the 70% of shares, and 20% goes to Yoma and 10% to FMI. The department store runs 4 floors of FMI Center in downtown Yangon. The chain store expects to raise its sales to 20% to 30% in a year. It has already set a plan to build another store on the 200,000 square foot lot in 4 years' time. The store is targeting to middle-class consumers. Parksons is operated by Malaysian Lion Group, and it was established in 1987. It has more than 100 stores in Asian cities.
The potentiality of Myanmar's rising attracts young entrepreneurs living abroad to return home. In Myanmar Focus Daily.
In the last episode of Myanmar Focus Daily, we met with a young blood Myanmar who graduated from abroad and came back to establish his market research firm here. Today he will reveal that which business should come to invest into Myanmar now, which one can wait, especially for the SMEs.
And what are the sectors, okay, you've mentioned some, but what are the sectors that should be here now? Otherwise we will lose out.
let's say surely this oil and gas, telecom. I think also infrastructure might be the right time now. So if you're a company specialized on building power plants, roads, bridges, it might be the right time. Also airport, there's been now concessions, will be concessions given to build a new airport near to Yangon and extending the existing airport. So certain things have to be done in the right time. Other sectors, you have more time, so it depends a bit.
But many people say that if you don't come now, you will lose our opportunity in every sector.
No, that's not right. I would say if you are a small company and have hard competition, it might be you might have an advantage if you're early here. For example, for us, as a small company, if you come in later when there are many established companies already here, it might be difficult. But if you are a major company, oil and gas company, whatever, if you come later, you can still, just buy up existing companies. You can buy up licenses that have been awarded to other companies. So you still have the possibility to catch up. But for example, I can imagine like if you're a small to medium enterprise, a Thai company, you have to come here now because later it will be much more difficult with the competition.
Okay. Do you think that it would be more challenging, more difficult for SMEs to come in, or would it be like it's not that challenging?
It depends a bit if what you're targeting. If you want to manufacture in Myanmar and then export to the foreign market, you can also come in 2 years, 3 years. It's not too late. But if you're targeting like the domestic market, it takes time to build up brands, and so if you come in later and others have already established a brand, it might be difficult to catch up.
And coming up next after the break, Cambodian exports to Japan is on the rise. Stay tuned. According to statistics from the Japan External Trade Organization, or JETRO, which were released late last week, that Cambodia's export to Japan were worth $126 million in the first quarter of the year, which is a rise of 23% quarter on quarter from $102 million last year. Kiyotaka Doho, a representative of JETRO Cambodia, said the acceleration of export to Japan could be attributed to growing ties between the two countries, as well as a diversification of Cambodia's exports. In addition to long-established export sectors like garments and footwear, Doho said that Cambodia's exports of electrical machinery is also on the rise. He said that many Japanese manufacturers assemble automotive parts in Cambodia and export to Japan, adding that growing Japanese investment in the country was largely responsible for the increase in exports. According to JETRO's trade figures, the products Cambodia shipped to Japan include footwear, woven apparel, knit apparel, and electronic machinery. In return, Cambodia imports mainly machinery, vehicles, electronic machinery, meat, ships, and boats. Michael Law, Chief Executive Officer of Canadian Bank, which signed an agreement late last week with Bank of Tokyo Mitsubishi UFJ to establish a business alliance in Cambodia, said that Japanese investors are responding to Cambodia's developing economy and view the kingdom as a good place for long-term investment as the economy is strong. While Cambodian goods exported to Japan were valued at $209 million in 2010, by the end of 2012, the value had reached $404 million. And according to JETRO's figures, bilateral trade between Cambodia and Japan reached $177 million in the first 3 months this year, a 30% rise compared with the corresponding period last year.
Let's catch some interesting aspects with Srichand Cosmetics and dispensary and how they maintained 6 decades of excellence. For Srichand Cosmetics and dispensary, setting up the business in the 1950s was difficult, but to maintain the 60 years of excellence is rather the most challenging, especially when Srichand traditional identity having to stand out in the modern era.
It's been decades for Srichand product and your company. How have you survived good times as well as bad times? Talking about 60 years ago and now.
Well, I think it's actually come from the ability to adapt. I think the adaptation is the key here. Well, you know, it has been, I have seen a lot of brands that trying to evolve into something that they don't. They're losing their core essence. That is something very important for us. We're trying to focusing on what is our core essence. As you can see, we don't move into something of a fashionable thing. For example, in this decade, the Korean theme of cosmetics is very strong in the market. If we move into that kind of market, we're going to lose, you know, what we actually are, and that's our customers. They don't like that. So
Certain market strategy of Srichand has absolutely changed through times.
Actually, how you planned channeling your marketing strategy then and how about now?
Well, in the past, we only focusing on more of. In the past, we target the product to be of something of a medicated kind of product. It's you know, like you correct something afterwards. But right now, we change the target of the product to be preventive. So it's actually changing the usage of the customer. So that's, I think, reflected on the channels as well. 5 years ago, you won't find Srichand anywhere except the pharmacies. Right now, we have it practically all kinds of modern trade stuff, you know, like 7-Eleven, Family Mart, to like high-end supermarket and stuff. So I think the usage and the perception of the product has changed a lot.
One of the interesting points here is that Srichand Cosmetics have expanded its production line to include the famous Tanaka powder. Originally, Tanaka comes from Burma, but Srichand takes a new challenging role of producing this original Burmese product and export to Burma.
Our product has been designed based on this assumption, right? People want to use Tanaka, but the old form of it, it's very difficult to use. So our powder, you can put it on and then put makeup on afterwards. And if you want to use it as a mask for nourishing at night, you can also put the water in. This is what we call hybrid powder. This is something that it has to be done in the R&D stage. You have to actually define your powder to become of this property. Normal powder can do just one. They can either be used as a loose powder. If it's used as a loose powder, they'll not be very good with water. Vice versa, if you want it powder to be has a good combination with water, it cannot be used as a loose powder. It will be too coarse. So, you know, this is what we observe in Myanmar. And as for Thai consumers, I think they have some knowledge of Tanaka already, especially in the northeastern region, and in Bangkok as well, I would say.
What is your strategy to actually, you know, bring back the original product of Myanmar into Myanmar?
No, interesting question, isn't it? Yeah. Well,
how do you actually compete with the local producers?
Very good question. I think this is it's a good thing that we actually put ourselves as a Thai brand, but using their you know, their
original identity.
Yeah. Now, the thing is that in Myanmar, if you walk into the supermarket or any stores, you see that Thai product is very popular, and not just popular, but given a high grade of acceptance as well. You know, put it easier. Myanmar people like Thai product, and they look at it as a premium product. So we put these two things together, and then we're coming in position as exactly as that. So it's something that they already been very familiar with, but it has been through a process of making it in Thailand, which they perceive to be of a higher quality compared to product from other countries, even from their own. I think this, and we put it as a premium position.
I see.
So we didn't actually sell to everyone, of course, but there are some group of people in Myanmar that it's a youngsters, younger generations that actually kind of appreciates this kind of product. So yes, it has been working pretty well actually.
A vision of the third-generation Srichand CEO has already overseen the regional market encompassing the Indo-Chinese region and, of course, the ASEAN Economic Community 2015. To start off with hard times during the 50s and to stay excellence in the years to come are still incomparable to how business adapted and waved above the wind of change. Srichand has made it crystal clear. Patsurang Desha Puttarangsi reports. That's it for today's edition of Good Morning ASEAN. We'll see you again, same time, same place, same channel.
From Monday to Friday at 7:30 to 8 a.m. And I am Nirasha Malisak Lamia.
And I'm Patsurang Desha Puttarangsi. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ